So I'm laughing because I did a really nice intro, but I recorded the outside. I didn't flip the camera over. Anyway, welcome to Vesna TV DIY. So today's episode is a mega video episode, and it is my favorite Christmas themed tray decor DIYs. DIY using this Dollar Tree brush, and I'm going to be creating it into a snowman. So what you need for this craft is the brush and black paint, acrylic paint, white acrylic paint, and some orange acrylic paint, and something for the bottom of his hat. You could use paint or you could use fabric. So with the black acrylic paint, I'm just painting the top of the brush, and with the white, I'm painting the gold part. And as well, I wasn't going to do it originally, but then I wind up doing it. I paint the brush part, but just like slightly brush over it with the white. Now I had to do several coats of the white on the gold. Maybe if you use chalk paint, it might have been a bit better, but I just used the acrylic, which is okay. So I did about 3 coats. The black, I only had to do the 1 coat. I didn't paint the back of the snowman. You can if you want to. I just painted it enough so that if I'm having it against a wall or if I'm having it hang up on the wall, you can't see the color of the brush. You just see the black and the white. So for his hat, I couldn't decide if I wanted to do a hat or just like put this at the base of his hat. So what I decided to do was, I decided that I would draw on the face and then, or paint on the face, and then decide how I wanted the hat with the little fabric for his hat. So for his nose, I'm freehand drawing an orange pumpkin using this pure pumpkin acrylic paint and just this thin brush. So I'm going to draw the nose like you would draw a carrot nose, and then I'm going to use the black acrylic paint for his eyes and buttons. If you wanted to, you could also glue on little googly eyes and if you have the foam dots, the glue-on dots, like the stick-on dots, you could do that as well. When I draw on the face, I decide how I want to do the hat, and also that I need a little bit of white on the bottom part of the snowman. So I go ahead and do that, except I didn't notice that I put the white on top of the black. So I'm just using a baby wipe to wipe off my brush and then just to paint on the white there. And once that is done, like I said, I decide that I'm going to use the black part as his hat, and then just do this little bit of red as the bottom part of his hat, the base of his hat. So I wind up cutting it to size and gluing it, and then you'll see that I'm just fixing up some of the black and I'm making it a little bit lower, so that way I can just use a little bit of the fabric as the base of his hat. And I use hot glue to glue that on, and I leave it a little bit longer so I can wrap it around the edges a bit. So here is the finished snowman. I think he's really cute. I really like him. And the great thing about this being a brush, you can hang him up if you want on that little hole, or you could tie a little bow if you don't want to hang it up, but I thought I'd leave it open because I'm not sure where I'm going to put him yet. Another really easy, really inexpensive, and very cute DIY or craft, whatever you want to. So here I wanted to show you what decorative glaze I was using, and then... No! Yep, I spilled the decorative glaze, so I decided to just continue on working so I could get some of the glaze off of my desk and put it on this chair, and then I had to clean it up, but yep, that was quite entertaining. So once I cleaned everything up, I went ahead and I put these things together. So for the next part of this DIY, you're going to need these little socks. So again, these socks, the Christmas socks, I got at the Dollar Tree last year. Actually, I got them in January when they had, or like end of December when they had their big sale. So if you don't have them, you could just use red socks. And as you can see, I'm using a part of a red sock there too. And then one of these little balls, some rice, and some elastic bands. So what I'm doing here now, because I had used this sock for another DIY as well, so this was what was left over, I'm just going to hot glue it together so that it stays closed. And then I will fill it with rice. I'm not filling it too much because I want it fitting into the Adirondack chair, because I'm making a Christmas Santa gnome sitting in his chair. So I don't want it too full. So I fill it up and I test it out in the chair, and then I see how much more or less I need, and then I tie it with the elastic. And then once I get the size that I want, I go ahead and I add that sock to the top of the gnome, and I pull down a little bit of it to make the nose. I wanted the nose to be red because sometimes Santa is kind of flushed, so I wanted his nose to be red. And I tie that as well with an elastic. So then I added the beard. The beard is this fur that I had from last year. You can pick it up. They have blankets at Dollarama, which is our version of the Dollar Tree. It's a little bit more expensive, so probably like the Dollar General, but I have seen little fur ribbons at the Dollar Tree. It's just like a hit and miss. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. So just any kind of fur will do, or even white material. You could use white felt if you can't find the fur for his beard. And that's all there is to this little guy, and he's going to sit in his chair and wait for all the kids to come and tell him their wishes. I got this mason jar looking thing sign from the Dollar Tree, and it's Canada Day themed because that's all they had. I know that they have summer themed ones too, so they're probably still around at your store. You might have a 4th of July one if you're in the States. And all I'm going to be doing is Mod Podging this. So the Dollar Tree has these cute little checkered napkins right now. They also have tablecloths and all sorts of things, so it might be a good time to pick these up. And I have little hands helping me. As you can see, he really wanted to Mod Podge this, so I show him what he needs to do and he's going to do it for me. And so I just put the Mod Podge at the bottom, and then, well, he puts it at the bottom, and then I go over top of it a little bit with the Mod Podge. I don't let him do that just because it is tissue paper. I mean, tissue paper, it's a napkin, so it's quite thin. Now, I don't do it all the way around because I'm not going to put anything up at the top. I wind up using 2 napkins just so that you can't see anything through them. So do the 2 napkins. That's why I did this part by myself, just because I was afraid he would rip it, and he also got tired of it. He, you know, his crafting attention span is quite limited. So put 2 of these on, Mod Podge them, let them dry off, then cut off the excess. I just use a fabric cutter for this, and it worked really well. And then I'm going to use some burlap for the bottom and some jute rope for the top. And again, this is another one that you could use in multiple seasons, so I wanted to show you this one as well. So once you have that all glued on there with some hot glue, then you're going to take some floral wire and you're going to put it through those 2 little holes, and you're going to just attach this little clip, and it's just like a little clip for papers that I had on hand, and just hot glue that on and create a little bow. So I'm just using some burlap, the red burlap that I used before, and then some regular burlap, and I'm just making little strips to make a funky little bow that I'm going to attach to the top of the mason jar. So what I'm doing is hot gluing these little bits I'm doing red burlap, brown burlap, red burlap, brown burlap, and that's it for the bow. Very simple bow. So I showed you this tutorial because it was very simple, and if your bows are a problem like they are for me, then this is something that you could do. And then you can use that little hook to attach your favorite Christmas picture, or if you guys didn't know, it is 23 Mondays until Christmas, so you could attach a cute little sign like that as a countdown. So a few more DIYs to go. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Take a, stretch a little bit while I'm talking here. But the next few DIYs are really easy too. The next one is a Christmas tree made out of clothespins. So another item that you can get at the Dollar Tree right now, actually all year long. So the pack of clothespins are 36. You're not going to need all 36 of them. You're just going to need a half of a package. So you're going to take one of those little strips that the clothespins come on, and you're just going to make a Christmas tree. Actually, you need less than half a package, 1/4 of a package, I would say. And you're just going to put them on depending on how big you want this Christmas tree. If you want it bigger, you can use more. And what I'm doing is the bottom 4, I'm putting one beside the other, and then the other ones I'm kind of zigzagging up top, as you can see. And then I've put them on, and then I go ahead and hot glue them to make sure that I like the way it looks. So again, there's so many options you could do with the clothespins. You could even take them apart and glue them the other way so that they can make a star, whichever. So many different options. If you guys are interested, I can show you some clothespin DIYs too, if that would interest you. Let me know in the comments below. But you're going to hot glue these down, and then you're going to take some forest green acrylic paint, and you're just going to paint them on, and use one of those little balls, that the wood balls that I was talking about, and you're going to add it to the top, and you're going to add one of the Dollar Tree wood stems that they have. They kind of look like birch bark, but like little mini ones. You're going to do that for the stump, and that's all there is to it. And because I noticed he was a little bit wobbly, probably because I stuck him onto the paper instead of a piece of wood, I just added another popsicle stick to the back. But if you put him on a jumbo popsicle stick, he won't be wobbly. So I am in love with the Dollar Tree palettes that I have seen many different creators use, and even on Instagram and Facebook, and I have not been able to find them. So I'm creating my own using 21 popsicle sticks, and I start off by just arranging them to the way that I would like the palette to look like. This is kind of up to you how big you want it to be. I thought 4 sticks out and then 8 sticks down would be big enough. And then once I arrange and see how far I want them to be, then I go ahead and I add the hot glue, and I just attach everything with the hot glue, and then I give them a little bit of height. I give the palette a little bit of height by adding another 3 popsicle sticks on each side from the bottom. And that's it for the palette. And then I use my Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in the Java brown, and I just stain this. I just use an old rag to do it, and I love using this glaze as a stain. It works really, really well. So after the stain sets, I thought I was going to use my Cricut to cut out the word joy using red vinyl, but then once I put that on, I didn't like the way that looked, so I decided to use some red burlap, which I also got at the Dollar Tree. They have these burlap ribbons available now, and they're really, really cute because they have them in orange and brown and red. So I used the red burlap, and I cut out just a piece that was wide enough for the entire palette. I wound up cutting another piece of the burlap just because I saw a little bit of the brown showing through on the burlap, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker, so I just put 2 pieces of burlap. You don't have to, I just like the way it looked better. And I hot glued that on, and then I cut out jute rope, and I made the word joy out of the jute rope, and I attached a little hook on using jute rope onto the top of the palette, so it kind of looks like it could be hanging somewhere or whichever. And that is it. Minimal materials, very cute, and has that rustic Christmas feel that I really like. Easier. So the next one, you're going to need about 7 popsicle sticks. And then you're going to make a Santa ladder, which is super easy. Just use these popsicle sticks. You're going to need a little bit of holiday red paint from the Dollar Tree, as well as this little garland. Now, this is the only thing that I'm not sure that you can find now, but you can find something similar that has like little berries so you can wrap it around. I'm sure of it. I just had this on hand from last year, and I will pick some more up this year because I really like to use them in like little bits of decor here and there. But that's all you need for this one. Just look how cute it is. That's what it's going to look like. Easy. So all I'm doing is hot gluing the ladder after I painted. So first you paint it in the holiday red, you do both sides, let it dry, then you hot glue it all together, and that is it. The only few things that you have to remember is that you don't want to use too much hot glue so that it doesn't kind of spill all over. And when you're hot gluing, you want to put them one on top of the other. And then you also want to kind of, when you do the middle part, you want to have it go in an open triangle so that way it's not a straight up ladder. If that's what the look you're going for, that was the look that I was going for. You're going to wrap that garland around, maybe hot glue it in a few spots if you want to, or if you want to be able to use this for maybe the fall, you don't even have to wrap the garland around, glue it around. You just wrap it around and that's it. And here's the finished piece. Sound really vain and say, this next one is really cute too. I love it because I really do love all the ones that I created. So this is a cool one because I'm using one of these little craft jars from the Dollar Tree. I thought I had 2 on hand, but I didn't. So the other one that I'm using is just a glass jar. So this is where you could use stuff that you have on hand at home. I just wanted to show you that you could get one of these craft jars at the Dollar Tree and it would work. But like I said, any old jars, if you can reuse them rather than recycling them, is great. So you need 2 jars, some gold metallic paint, white paint, and some black paint, and a little bit of ribbon. I'm using this checkered one, which I actually got during the summer, not at Christmas time, so you might be able to pick it up now. I got that last year though. So hopefully any kind of red ribbon would work too. You're going to paint both of these jars. One jar you're going to paint red, the other jar you're going to paint white. Now I did have one of my viewers tell me that pouring the paint might work a lot better with the glass. I saw the comment after I painted these, so next time I'm painting any glass or anything like that, I might try it. I tend to get really messy, so I don't like to pour stuff, but you know, why not give it a try? So I did 2 coats of white and red, and I did a little bit on the inside, not like too much, just a bit, so in case I saw like a little bit coming through. The white I had to do a little bit more. If you do have chalk paint on hand, I think it works a little bit better than the acrylic paint. It just has better coverage. So once you have these guys painted, then you need to do your decorations and your design. So the white one, you guessed it, is a snowman. If you've seen my mega video or any of my Christmas DIYs from last year, I love snowman stuff. So I'm just drawing 3 buttons. If you want to be really precise and perfect, you could use something like a stencil to make the little buttons. I kind of wanted them to look like they were coal, so that they, like, instead of buttons, but they were like coal, so they were kind of like choppy. But like I said, if you want to make them perfect, by all means use a stencil or something like that. And then this guy is done. He just needs his little ribbon. This guy's going to be Santa, so I'm going to be drawing on his belt. Again, if you want, you can use a stencil or you can freehand it. I chose to freehand it. So I'm just drawing the belt in black, and then I will be going over it in some gold. for the flowers, I wanted to show you that you could use fall or summer flowers for this in case your Dollar Tree runs out of them really fast or you just don't have any on hand. So these are the peonies that I use. They're wild peonies, and then these are dahlias. They're both from the gladiolas. They're both from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just using one stem of the gladiolas and one stem of the peonies, and here they are, and I just swapped. I put the red with the white and the white with the red, and I think they turned out really cute. They'll be perfect tray decor items. So this DIY I actually got from my sister. She's the Domestic Diva DIY. She did this, I think, last year or the year before, where she used some pots. I don't know if she used these exact ones, but she used some pots from the Dollar Tree to create bells. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm just using 2 of them. You could use 3. They come in a pack of 3, so if you wanted to use up all 3 of them, you could. I just wanted to use 2. And I'm going to make them look like they're galvanized, like silver bells. So I start off with just painting them black, and then I do my galvanizing. So I didn't show you the full galvanizing because I have many galvanizing tutorials on my channel. So what I can do is I can actually link one of my videos down in the description below, so just check it out. But what I'm using is on top of the black, I put some silver and some white and then some more black, and I just dab them on. So I put them all on a little bowl and I dab them on as I go. There's not really like a set, okay, you have to do this first or that. It's just whatever you like to look at. Sometimes I even add blue to it, sometimes I don't. This time I didn't. So then I made little holes into the bells because they have the drainage holes that you can poke through, and I'm putting some jute rope through them, and I'm going to tie that at the top, and then I will have a little bit hang out so it looks like there's like a bell portion inside, and then I will tie a ribbon to it. And sorry, I didn't make myself clear. At where the little bell portion hangs in the bottom, I do a little knot so it doesn't come out, and then I leave a loop, and then I hot glue it together as well before I add the ribbon. So I'm just using some of this checkered ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I believe they have it even now, not just at Christmas time, and I'm just making like a mock bow. I don't do bow tutorials because I'm not an expert on them, so I feel like I don't do them the best, so I just did little loops and hot glued everything together, and here they are. Saw someone do this similar DIY a while back. I can't remember who it was. I just remember I really liked it, so I had picked up one of these shovels at the beginning of the season, and I'm just spray painting it in this Rust-Oleum heirloom white. Actually, our Walmart was closing down, so these were so cheap. I picked up a whole bunch, and then I'm going to be putting the Rust-Oleum chalked charcoal paint up at the top where the little handle is. By all means, you could use acrylic paint. Now, the only advice that I have for you is maybe put Mod Podge at the bottom and then paint it, because the paint kept on coming off. So I wound up putting Mod Podge over top of it, and I antiqued it a little bit with the black. And now what I wanted to do for this shovel is I wanted to show you that you could use this for all the seasons. So it's very neutral, kind of farmhousey, and I'm going to add jute rope to the kind of stem of the shovel, and then I have a bow that I created again off camera because I had a really hard time creating it, but I'll show you what it looks like finished. And then I'm just gonna Velcro that bow to just where the handle meets the open part of the shovel, and I just Velcro one piece to the bow and one piece to that, so that way you can change it up for the seasons. For the fall, you can use it, a fall ribbon. For the summer, you could maybe do some lemons or whatnot. For spring, some tulips or whichever. So this way it gives you options. As you can see in the back, I didn't put too much paint because wherever I have it, I'll have it kind of against something so you won't see the back. So there's no point in wasting paint. So the ribbon is a mishmash. This white Santa ribbon and snowman ribbon I actually got from my friend. I don't know where she got it. Maybe Michael's and maybe White Rose when they used to have it. She said it's very old and she hasn't used it in years, so she didn't need it. And she knew that I could use it from some of my videos. And then again, that checkered ribbon as well as a little bit of burlap. So before I show you the next DIYs, as I was painting one of these things, I took some paint out and everything flipped over and spilled on the floor. So again, like this is what happens on a regular basis when I craft. This is why things take me so long, is because I wind up having to clean up a mess that really didn't need to happen. Anyway, moving on. I'm using one normal size pool noodle, and I'm using the white duct tape, which you can get at the Dollar Tree. Mine isn't from there, but you can get it there, to wrap around the pool noodle to make it look like a candy cane. Then I cut the pool noodle into several pieces. The first piece I will make a candy cane out of, and then the second piece I will cut into two, and I will make 2 lanterns. So another thing that you can get from the Dollar Tree right now, actually I will probably stock up on a few of these. I saw some really cool DIYs from the Daily DIYer. This is the idea from her, and she had some really cool ideas for pool noodles, so I will definitely pick some up so I can do them for my Christmas DIYs in the winter. So pick them up if you want to do any of these. Then you need some fishing line, and you're going to tie it. Now this was harder than it looks, maybe because I only have one hand that I'm working with, but you're going to tie it so it looks like a candy cane. Maybe you might need someone to help you. Me and my husband did it together because I couldn't do it on my own. And then for the lanterns, you just need these Dollar Tree lanterns, which they have solar lamps, sorry, not lanterns, solar lamps, that they have right now at the Dollar Tree. You're going to cut it down to size so you can fit this little lantern in there. You could put this in the ground, or you could put it into something like I did. I'll show you in a second, but then this is like almost not even a DIY, it's done. And here's what I put them into my little Farm Fresh Christmas trees, these little lanterns in there, and my little candy cane, and I think they just turned out really cute. I'm so happy with how all of these turned out. I think they're really cute and they'll make awesome decor for Christmas. Going to be making a joy sign using these Dollar Tree frames and some jute rope. I'm going to be creating the word joy using my jute rope, and I'm going to be gluing little pieces of the jute rope together to create the J, the O, and the Y, and then I'll just be hot gluing it to the frames and then adding some embellishments. Very easy to do, very inexpensive. The project cost me a total of, well, $3.75 for the frames because I'm in Canada, so each frame was $1.25 from the Dollar Tree. And then I had jute rope left over, so it didn't cost me anything, but I mean, jute rope is another $1.25. So basically around $5 for the entire project. There's so little embellishments that you could just use anything you kind of have around your house, and if you don't, then add another $1 for that. I'm not gonna bother talking through the whole video, through the whole process, but you can see what I'm doing, just adding jute rope and just gluing them together. If you wanted this to be a little bit easier, you could cut out with a piece of cardboard and glue these on there. I'm just using 2 pieces or 3 pieces depending on the letter. So for this one I used 3 pieces, and for the O I used 3 pieces, for the Y I used 2, and then I just added a little bit at the top. But again, fairly easy to do. So once you have your letters glued down, then you want to do your embellishments. So what I chose to do was I had these berries. It was a pack of berries that I got at the Dollar Tree. And what I'm doing is I'm just painting them white, and I'm only using about 6 berries. So you could cut these off if you had them, if you had like a little Christmas pick, and it would, like I said, would cost you even more, because then you could just do for $1.25. You could do your greenery and everything else. But I had these, so I wanted to use them up. So I'm gluing this down, and originally I thought I would just put it on the little clip here for the letters. And then once I put it down and I looked at it, I decided I didn't like the way it looked, so I changed the position of them and I added some greenery. For this DIY, I am using this pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. It is something that I bought when, like, during Halloween, and it just reminded me of a Santa or a gnome. So I thought this would be great for a Christmas craft, and I was really excited to have found it. I'm sure you could find a Santa in this exact shape too if you wanted to, but I found this, so I bought it right away. So the first step for this project is that I have to remove all of the pipe cleaner off of here, and I'm not cutting it all up. I'm actually going to keep all of that pipe cleaner because I may use it for Halloween next year. And this is another easy project. All the things that you need are basically a mop, some fabric for the hat, and something for the nose, whatever you can find. So what I'm using is I am using a tree skirt that I bought at Dollar Tree for his hat, a Dollar Tree mop for his beard, and one of those styrofoam balls that you can get in a pack at Dollar Tree as well. So again, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the mop, the hat, the nose, and the body. So $4 basically for this one. $5 if you live in Canada, because $1.25, like I said before. Again, and another easy one. This one is a little bit more time consuming because you have to glue the beard, but again, another easy project to do. So what you see me do here is I'm just I'm just hot gluing the bits of the mop to the gnome. Now these are already taken off of the mop part. I will link my other gnome videos to the top here, and you can see this is all from one mop head. So I've made, this is now gnome number 3, and I still have bits left over for more if I wanted to. So that mop goes a long way, and you just cut the strings to the length that you want them, and then you glue them one by one to your frame. Once you actually glue all of your pieces down, then what you're going to want to do to make the beard look fluffier and fuller, you're going to want to unravel each one of the mop strings. So you want to make sure when you're gluing it, you're only gluing it at the top, not at the bottom as well. They have to be loose at the bottom. So that way you can unravel them and make the beard look fuller and a little bit kind of like curly, almost like a Santa or a gnome. So it's like, you've seen gnomes before, so it looks that way. Now you could totally add arms or feet to this gnome. I didn't, but you could. And how you unravel these, so they're just like, it's quite easy. You just kind of start separating them. Don't do it too much, because if you start separating them all the way, it'll separate all the way to the top, and then you're not going to have anything left. So then for the hat, I just wrapped the tree skirt around to see how much material I would need. And again, if you've seen me do DIYs before, I don't like to waste things, so I try to be really careful to use the least amount of material that I can. So I cut the material down, and then I did actually, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, I used a little bit of the fake snow that you can buy that kind of pulls apart, a little bit like a cotton ball for the top of his hat. You could also use cotton balls, I just didn't have any. And here's the finished piece. I think he turned out really cute. Like I'm going to be using these like Rubik's Cubes from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be creating a nice little joy sign from these blocks. Originally I wanted to use the foam dice, but I could not find them, so I thought this would be as good as anything else to use. And I'm going to be painting them with my Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint. I was trying to show it to you there, but I didn't have it in the frame for some reason. And but it's the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white. I have a really big container of it because I use it quite a bit. It goes a really long way, so if you're looking for a decently priced chalked paint, that is a really good one to go with. After about 3 coats, I got them to the way I wanted them to be, and now I'm just going to be freehand drawing the letter J onto these blocks, and it's just so that I can paint over it and not, because if I try to do freehand painting I usually make a mistake. So this is just so I can kind of follow the guide of the writing instead of doing a stencil, because I didn't think I needed a stencil for 3 letters. For the paint, I'm using again the Holiday Red from the Dollar Tree, and it's just an acrylic paint, and I'm going over the drawn letters with just that paint. I'm not mixing it with anything. I don't have a dirty brush. Sometimes I have brushes that have black on it or brown. Purposely I don't clean them off because I want to have that color. But for this one I'm just using the red itself, and I put a good amount on it. After I add the red paint for the joy, I clean my brush off a little bit just with a paper towel, and then I add some black, and again I dry brush the black around to give it like a distressed effect. Don't worry if you get too much distressing on, you can always wipe it off and just add more of the paint that you used originally, like the white paint, and then it'll just blend in and you won't even be able to tell. For the little bit there, I actually used a paint pen because I found that I was trying to use a brush but it didn't work out, so I used a paint pen which covered it beautifully. Again, you pick and choose which you need to use, what will work best for you. This is what worked for me. So once all of this dried off, I went ahead and added a little bit of greenery just to show you guys what it could look like with and without. So here is the finished piece. So I just love the rustic farmhouse feel of this joy here. You could add something green like this if you wanted to, depending on where you're using it. I'm not sure where it'll go. Again, I'm decorating soon, so you'll see it over on my home channel. But if you didn't want to add, here's what it just looks like without it. It's pretty rustic. It's exactly what I was going for. A lot of my decor is this way. So the last 2 DIYs that I'm doing are snowmen. And I'm using these snow globes from the Dollar Tree. I'm using 2 of them. I'm taking off the lids and all of that stuff, and I'm putting it off to the side. I won't be using it for this craft, but I might be able to use it for something else. And I am painting the inside of the snowman with a mixture of Rust-Oleum chalk paint and water. And the reason I'm using this is because I had already made that mixture, and I just wanted to see if I watered it down whether it would be a better fit or not. I do wind up doing several coats of this, so maybe if you just use straight paint you wouldn't have to do so many coats, but I was also just sometimes the straight Rust-Oleum paint is quite thick, so I wanted it to be a little bit more runny so it's not, I don't know, I thought it might glob too much. So, but the main reason I used this was because I had it on hand. You could go with acrylic as well, but the chalk paint worked really well. The watered down chalk paint worked well. So I wound up trying the acrylic paint, but I thought that the chalk paint worked better. They both worked okay, but I like to work with chalk paint better. So after 2 or 3 coats, depending on your paint, this is what they look like. Then I'm going to connect them together. I'm going to use a combination of Weld Bond and hot glue. So that way I can make sure that it's a permanent hold and the snowman doesn't fall apart. So I'm just going to put this one over top of the other one and just hold them tight for a little bit. The reason I'm using the combination is because the hot glue will give me that immediate hold and the Weld Bond will give the permanent hold. So I'm just going to pop the hot glue over here. I wind up having to kind of adjust it a little bit because I didn't take into consideration the curve of the globe. So you just want to hold this for, 10-15 seconds, and that'll give you that hold from the hot glue, so that way you can do your work. I'm not concerned about the, the glue showing on the sides or anything like that, because I'm going to be putting a scarf over that, so I don't have to worry about it. But while that sets, I'm going to be making the snowman's hat. For the hat, I'm going to be using this leftover ribbon roll. So there was that faux fur from the Dollar Tree, and it came on just a little bit of a higher ribbon roll, and I'm just going to be painting it black because it was the perfect shape for his top hat. And I'm just using acrylic, black acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree. Once you cover this completely, then you can set it off to dry. I did not worry too much about covering the bottom part of it completely because it's going on the snowman anyway. I just had to do one coat. By the time I went over the whole thing, the top part there that I had to go over dried up a bit, so I just put a little bit of black paint over top and that's it. So while that dries, I'm going to attach the scarf and draw on his nose and his eyes. For his scarf, I'm using Dollar Tree ribbon. I just hot glue the scarf around his neck, and then I make a bow that I hot glue together. I made little loops and then I hot glue them together to make a bow for his scarf. For his eyes, I'm just using acrylic paint, and for his nose, I'm just cutting out a triangle shape from my foam, orange foam, and I'm just hot gluing it on. I also use the black paint for his buttons. You could do anything you wanted. I just thought freehand drawing it would be just as good as hot gluing something. Now for the bottom of the snowman, I'm just gluing on a piece of cardboard, and then I'm going to be making kind of snow around the snowman. For the snow, I'm just using like the fake spider webs from Halloween. I was going to use hot glue to attach the spider webs to the cardboard, but then I wound up using Mod Podge because it worked a bit better. Unfortunately, I don't have the best view of me doing this, but I wind up attaching some of the ribbon around the top hat. As well, I attach a little green pick. You can see it in the picture there. As well as some pine cones, like the miniature pine cones, to the top of his hat, just for extra added decor. Before I hot glue the hat to his head, I just position it, making sure that I'm putting it in the right spot where I want it, and then I hot glue it just so that I'm not hot gluing it the wrong way. So that is it for this DIY. I think it turned out really cute. He is adorable. Other than drying time, this was a really quick and easy DIY to make, and like I said, very inexpensive. First ornament, you're going to need a pine cone, some green acrylic paint, as well as either a cork from a wine bottle or one of these little birch stumps that you can get at the Dollar Tree as well. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to paint this pine cone, but I didn't have the deep forest green, so I'm just mixing a little bit of black acrylic paint with that leaf green to give me a little bit of a darker green that I'm looking for, and then I'm going to paint this pine cone. And again, all these things you can easily find at the Dollar Tree, and they come in bigger packages, so you'll be spending about $2 on this DIY, but you will get more than one DIY out of it. So for about $2, you could get about 5 ornaments. And so all I'm doing is one ornament for you guys, but I'm painting it out green. You can see that the black added just a little bit of a deeper green than just the leaf green on its own, but you could totally just use the leaf green if that's what you wanted. So these are the wood stems that I was talking about. And once this pine cone paint dried, I just hot glued the stem to the bottom of the pine cone. They're all slightly different sizes, so I just made sure that this one would stand on its own if I wanted it to stand on its own. And then I just attach a little bit of jute rope to the pine cone, but just a very tiny piece that was left over from a different project. You could also do floral wire if you had it, or you could hot glue even an ornament hanger if you wanted. And there you go. There's one ornament completed. Here it is with a little bit of the brown showing through. I think it's a very cute little Christmas tree ornament made out of a pine cone. The great thing about this, you could even make it for free if you have pine cones and little stems or wine like corks at home. It could be a free DIY. Before I go ahead on to my next DIY, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Vesna, and this is my DIY channel. The second ornament is also a dollar store ornament, with the exception of this little ring from a mason jar, and that was just left over from my canning jars, and it's a little bit rusty, so I didn't want to use it on my cans, so I'm using it here. You don't have to use this. You could use any kind of ring form. It could be from just if you took some floral wire and you wrapped it around together, you could use that. You could even use pipe cleaners if you wanted, but I'm using this because usually everyone has this on hand. or can easily find it. They're not very expensive, and you might be able to get them at the thrift store. To be honest with you, I never checked at, the thrift store at the Dollar Tree. I never actually checked in ours, and I know in the States you guys have a little bit more than we do here in Canada, so you guys may be able to get these. Let me know. So anyway, you're just taking this and one of those Dollar Tree trees, and you're cutting off the branches and just wrapping them around the canning lid. And that's about it. You could use garland if you picked it up. They didn't have any more garland when I was looking for it, so I bought this tree, and I've used it for several projects. And all you do is wrap it around. Very, very easy ornament. So once you finish wrapping it around and getting it to the fullness that you want, then you can go ahead and make it snow covered. And I'm just doing this by applying some chalked linen white paint. You could use acrylic. This is the paint I was using for a previous project, so I had it on hand, so that's what I'm using. I also, the last little stem I wrapped around, but I left a little bit at the top so I could attach an ornament hanger to it, and it looks kind of like a wreath hanger. And so I'm just making the whole wreath snow covered because I love that look. And then I'm adding some leftover berries from another project, and I'm hot gluing those to this little wreath. So you could end here and it would still look cute. You could add, there's those little garlands that you can get, like those mini garlands that you could get at the Dollar Tree, but I chose to use these little berries because I had them left over. So I'm just hot gluing them around the wreath so it looks like it's snow covered and berry covered. So another quick and inexpensive ornament that will look cute on any Christmas tree, especially if you're doing the farmhouse theme. So here it is, all finished in some pretty light, and I think it turned out gorgeous. Before I move on to my next ornament, this video is actually a part of my playlist, which is the 12 Days of Christmas. Another simple, inexpensive ornament. And for my last ornament, I am using these wooden blocks. They're the tumbling tower blocks, and I'm painting them out in the chalked linen white. Now, I only need to do the one coat of the white because the blocks are so light, so you only need to do one. Once they dry off, I'm going to be making a snowman, a Santa, a Christmas tree on a red block, and then a Ray Dunn inspired Mary. And this, I'm doing 4 different kinds just to show you kind of what you could do with these. You could kind of do anything, and they're cute little ornaments. So for this one, I'm just going to paint the top red for a hat for the snowman. And I'm going to speed all of this up because you don't need to. I mean, you might decide to do a different design on yours, but this is just to give you an idea of what I did. The other Jenga block, I'm painting partially red, leaving a little bit where the Santa's jacket is white, and then I'll be going over top of it with a paint marker as well to add, you know how Santa has the red with the white fur, so to add the fur part. For the Mary, I'm just using a Sharpie to write the word Mary. I was having a little bit of a hard time, so I'm not gonna show you me fumbling around with it, but I just freehand wrote Joy and Mary, but then I decided I only wanted Mary. And then I wound up painting this one block completely red. I do the other one where I paint the back red and the front is the Mary. I was gonna do another design on the back and have it be a double-sided one, but then I just decided if I just do one side red and one side white, that's enough. And then I use a Sharpie and an orange marker to draw on the snowman, as well as my paint pen to add some white dots. And that's all there is to it. You can freehand draw anything you want. It's really up to you. It's not, I didn't do anything like specific where I traced something. I just freehand drew what I thought would be a good snowman and just added some dots. And then at the bottom of the snowman, I added a bit of red paint too for his scarf. I thought I was just going to do a black scarf, but then I thought, well, the red should match his hat. And then the snowman as well, I did the paint pen and I added the fur using that paint pen. put a black belt on him with a little bit of yellow chalk marker because I didn't have any yellow paint that was nice and vibrant. I did, but it's very watered down, must be too old, so it kind of doesn't look like paint anymore. And then the last little block that I did, I just hot glued a Christmas tree that actually came off of an ornament, one of those little red car ornaments that you could also get at the Dollar Tree, little red pickup truck ornament. And it fell off, but I kept it, and then I just stuck it onto here. And then on the back of each ornament, I hot glued a piece of string so that you could hang it. And that's all there is to these. Again, very simple, a little bit finicky, but very simple to do, very inexpensive. Basically cost around $1. And so here are the completed ornaments. I have not hung them up yet. I just have them displayed on my fireplace over here. And again, I think they're cute. I wanted the fur on the Santa to look like it was actual fur, so it's not quite evenly painted, but so let's get started. So if you've watched my videos before, you know I loved decorating with tier trays, and I love doing the Christmas tier trays. Oftentimes, because I have 3 trays, I feel like I'm running out of items to put in them. So this year I decided I'm going to make a whole bunch of DIYs that I can use in my trays. And actually I will be posting a mega video next week likely of all of my tiered tray decor items, so that way you guys can get an idea. If you haven't decorated yet for whatever reason, maybe you decorate later, here's an idea. Or if you wanted just a centerpiece that you couldn't think of what to make, might give you some ideas. So what I'm starting with is this little sign from the Dollar Tree. It's that little homemade sign. I thought it was a cute sign, but it wasn't to my style, so I thought it would be perfect for a little mini Christmas tiered tray decor item. What I did first was I removed everything that was stuck on the tray, and then I realized that I could actually remove all of the cardboard little bits and pieces off, and this actually helped with making kind of a smooth surface for me to work on. So even though I added the paint first, I wound up going back and just ripping off those little bits of cardboard and glue, so that way I have a nice smooth finish. Once I have all of that off and I have a smoother finish, I go back and I apply my Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint to this little mini Dollar Tree sign. And I'm painting it white because to me the white is really nice for a Christmas theme and winter theme for my tier tray. Once I have the coverage that I wanted, I do several coats of this once it dries. I don't have it completely and perfectly covered because I am okay with a little bit of the black coming through. It gives it that rustic look that if you've watched my videos, I love the rustic look, so this gives me that little vibe. Then I attach this ornament. So this is the little wagon ornament that they had at the Dollar Tree. And I attached this to the middle of the sign. And then I'm going to add these mini Christmas trees to each side of the wagon. And I'm just using hot glue to attach these. And then I add some snowflakes and the word Merry. Everything is from the Dollar Tree. And I decide that it needs a little bit extra, so then I add a mini wreath. And I'm using a branch from the mini Christmas tree from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just curving it into a little wreath and attaching it, hot gluing it to the sign. And then I just go over top of everything with some acrylic paint. White acrylic paint, just to give it a little bit of a snow-covered look. Although this one had more supplies than I normally use in one project, I did have everything on hand, and if you're crafting for the holiday season, you'll likely have these things on hand because you would have bought them for various other projects. So it's fairly inexpensive to make, but it did use up more material. So if you had to buy each one, I guess it would be around $5 that you'd spend on this. But I think for $5, this cute little tier tray decor sign turned out beautiful. I love it. I think it's gorgeous. It's very winter-like, very Christmassy, and it'll look great on my tray. This is another simple, inexpensive piece to make. I kind of went a different way than I thought I would go and wound up doing something similar like I did in one of my other videos, which I can post in this up here as well. But what I was going to originally do is I was going to make a mini cutting board, kind of like the ones from the Dollar Tree that you can buy, the plastic ones, but I feel like they're a little bit too big for my tiered tray, so I wanted to make a mini version of it using just some cardboard items and some leftover pieces of wood. So I went ahead and I cut everything out. I hot glued my little handle to the cutting board, and I just could not get it to be centered the way I wanted it to be. It was driving me absolutely crazy. I could not get, I even used the cutting board to help me trace around it so that I could get the size and the shape that I wanted, but I just could not get it, and I wasn't happy with it, and I kept on cutting until it was too small, and then I gave up because it was taking a lot longer than it should. And really, when a craft is driving me crazy that much, I need to step away from it and not do it. I do like to show these things to you because I think it's important for you to see that even if we do this all the time, we still have that thought process and those fumbles where we're like, well, nope, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So that way you don't get discouraged. There's lots of people who think that they can't craft or can't DIY or can't make anything, and they kind of get scared of it. And then if they think that, you know, even somebody who does it all the time doesn't make mistakes, then they might get discouraged. So this way, hopefully it encourages you to try it anyway. So as you can see, like, I go ahead and I create my little cutting board using my buffalo check. I decided on the red instead of the black and white. I wanted the black and red. And once I wrap it, I realize I still don't like the shape of it, and then I go ahead and cut everything off. I paint the handle a dark brown, almost black color. I stick on my little wooden gingerbread man, thinking that I'm going to be, like I said, happy with it, but I really wasn't. So then I cut everything off, and I decide I'm going to attach some popsicle sticks as a frame to this, and it'll just be a little sign. So I made an ornament with a sleigh kind of like this, but this will just be a sign. I'm not making it an ornament. So I'm just trying to measure out so that it's exactly the same distance from the top and bottom. Then I'll be cutting it off at the bottom to make sure I shape it. I'm hot gluing it down, and I'm making just kind of like a frame like that, and I'm letting the popsicle sticks hang over because I think it just makes it look a little bit nicer. And that's all there is to this one. So this turned out to be really simple and really inexpensive to make. I had the popsicle sticks on hand. This was a scrap piece of fabric left over. I was on some cardboard, and these stickers I've had from a different project. So very inexpensive to make, very simple, but I don't think it looks simple. It looks pretty nice, and it'll go great on that tiered tray. And I did use an X-Acto knife just to cut off the excess fabric and cardboard. I cleaned it up nice, and here's what it looks like all finished. Before I move on to my... When I saw this stocking, I thought it would be a perfect little addition to my tiered tray. So what I'm doing is I'm going to wrap it in the buffalo check pattern, which I got a fabric, which is a little roll that came from the Dollar Tree. And the stocking came from the Dollar Tree, as did the faux fur. So I'm just going to wrap the stocking around. I'm hot gluing it to the wood, and then I'm going to hot glue the faux fur on top and stain the bottom of the stocking, the little plank that it stands on, so that way it's a bit of a darker color. You don't have to stain it. I had the Annie Sloan dark wax, so that is what I used, but you absolutely do not have to use that. You could paint it brown, you could paint it white, you could do a faux stain. It's really up to you. Whenever I apply the wax, I always use either a brush or something like a cloth or a paper towel to just apply it, like basically wipe it on. And that way, if you get any excess, you can wipe it off right away, and that's all there is to it. And here's the mini stocking all finished. I think it turned out really cute. It was a very easy project to do. All you had to do was hot glue and wrap the fabric around the stocking, glue the fur, and give the bottom a little bit of a stain or paint, whatever you choose to do. But this took me all of maybe 5 minutes to do, and it just looks fabulous.
Alrighty, so for this trash to treasure, my husband was lovely enough to cut out some snowmen out of plywood, and we just have a bigger one and a smaller one, just two level one and like a 3-ball one. I will be painting these out, one of them in this heirloom white and Rust-Oleum spray paint. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a kind of like an antique white. And then on one of them, I'll just do, I know it's like a rust paint, but I really like this one. So it's just a flat white, like really white paint. And that's what I'll be doing these guys, because one I want kind of to look antique and the other one like really crisp and white. And then I'll just be decorating them. Really easy trash to treasure DIYs.
So the bigger snowman I actually did in the heirloom white, and I'm just using some cardstock from the dollar store to cut out his hat. I kind of thought about what I could use, and this is what I came up with. You could probably use construction paper too, or if you have some cardboard, you could paint it black and use that if you really wanted to do true trash to treasure. And so I'll just freehand cut out a top hat, and then I freehand draw on the carrot nose and the eyes and the buttons. And then I'll be adding, from leftover ribbon, I'll be adding just a little scarf. Now, I'm not worried about the eyes being like exactly the same size. Our eyes aren't always the same size. If you're making a snowman outside, whatever you're using for his eyes is not going to be the same size. So I like to have things look that way. I know for some people, they really like it to be kind of perfect. And if that's what you're going for, maybe use a stencil, or even if you can find some stickers, that could be something that you do. Or if you're lucky enough to have a Cricut, you could do Cricut. And I'm just using hot glue to glue everything. So once I drew everything on, I just distressed him a little bit more because I wanted him to be a little bit antique-y. And so I just used some black acrylic paint and just dry brushed it on the edges and just kind of all over the snowman. This is just an extra step that I added. You obviously make however you want him to be. I am going to apologize about my voice. I still have not gotten it back. I'm not sure. It's been like a month and I still can't seem to get it back. So I sound a little funny. But anyway, that's all there is to him. Let me know what you think. I think he's really cute and he'll make like a nice tray decor piece or a mantle decor, or whichever, or a nice little sign. If you want to hang him up, you just, use some command strips. Next guy I painted in the flat white. Same thing, I used a top hat. I used the cardstock as a top hat. And then I had a different kind of ribbon that I used for his scarf. And then I added some arms, and these are just little sticks that I found in the garden. And little tiny sticks that I hot glued on for his arms. The other one did not have arms. And this guy I did not distress. And I did put their hats on kind of crooked because I thought they would look cuter that way. And that's all there is to this guy too, so let me know what you think of him.
So my mom had this salt shaker that she was throwing out. So I'm going to make a Christmas DIY out of it. So it's any old salt shaker. Like if you have some that have like, look at this, this is kind of gross. It's rusted over, it's gotten gross. She actually had 2 of them, salt and pepper shaker. But when I tried to remove, because it had rusted so bad, when I tried to remove the lid, it actually broke the salt shaker. So for this guy, I'll be using that flat white spray paint. And then I'm going to use a red spray paint for the top, because that'll kind of be like his hat. It is this colonial red spray paint.
So after I spray painted him, I kind of did a lot of thinking as to how I'm going to actually go create a Santa. I did see a snowman salt shaker, and those are a little bit easier to do. So I played around with maybe just adding the little lid of the salt shaker as his hat, but not adding a head, and I didn't like the way any of it looked, so I wound up adding a styrofoam ball as his head and then some felt as his hat. So you'll see that in the next clip. So what I actually did is like I said, I used the styrofoam ball. I hot glued it to the top of the salt shaker, and then I did the metal part on top of his head. And again, I contemplated leaving it, but I did want it to have kind of like a Santa hat. So I just added some embellishments. I gave him a beard, and for the beard, I used some leftover fur, white fur that I had from last year. It's all from the dollar store. I think maybe Dollarama or Dollar Tree, I'm not sure. One of them I got last year. I Sharpied his eyes on, and then I Sharpied just little rosy cheeks and a pink nose. And then over the cheeks, I just went over with white to kind of dull down the pink so it wasn't so pink. And then I also added a mustache using that same fur. And then again, for the hat, I used felt, and for his arms, I used felt.
Okay, so what I did here was I added just a piece of felt that I cut into a triangle. I glued it to the base of this top here. And then I added some of the fur at the end. And then here I just used, this was a washcloth from the Dollar Tree. So I cut out just a strip of it and then I glued it onto the back here. And then here, I'm just going to do a makeshift wreath. And that's what he's going to be holding. Or maybe I'll do a present. Actually, I have a present. There we go. I'll do a little present that I'm going to wrap up in some of this ribbon. See what I mean? Sometimes I think on the fly and it'll look cute. So what I've done here is I've cut a strip like this, and I'm using the wire side, and then I wrapped it here, and then I'm going to wrap it around this way too, and then I'm going to hot glue it so that it looks like he's holding it. So there it is. So there it is. He's holding it. You can see I've hot glued it to his belly. And there he is. He's so cute.
Let me know what you think of him. But again, a super easy DIY.
I will be making into a snowman as well. I love snowman. And I'm going to be painting this out in a crisp white like this one. Now, you may have watched my ghost that I made for Halloween. This is kind of the same thing, except I'm using just a jar. You've probably seen me use these guys as well. This is from Peaches from Costco, and these jars are perfect. They don't, everything comes off really, really nicely. They're like an awesome shape, and I love using them. And then I'm going to use an old, like you can see it's rusty, an old ring from a mason jar. You could use a mason jar if you don't have these. I just thought to make it a true trash to treasure. And because I have lots of these, we love eating canned peaches. And so for this, I'll be doing spray painting this black, and I'll show you the black paint in a minute. And because it doesn't quite, it doesn't fit in, I'm going to hot glue it. So just, make some adjustments. So I have very little of this paint left, but if it's enough, it's just a black spray paint. It's just any old spray paint that you can have. I just like it because it's fast drying, and it's for wood and metal, and it's interior and exterior. So if I decided to use something outside, I could. And same with this guy. So if I wanted to put this out, I could. And that's it.
So even for this guy, I just drew everything freehand using a Sharpie, a black and orange Sharpie. And then I'm adding a scarf to the bottom. And then I have some difficulties. I have dirty fingers that have paint on them, and I wound up getting black paint on him, so I won't have to fix it, but I'll show you that in a minute.
So like a dummy, I spray painted the wrong size of mason jar, so you need the ones with the smaller holes. So, or maybe this solar lamp isn't. I have other solar lamps, but I can't find them. I don't know what I've done with them, so I've just used an old one. And they're the ones from the Dollar Tree, but I think these are very, very old ones. So the new ones, I believe, are bigger. And I packed away my Halloween stuff, and I don't know why I packed away the solar. I didn't think I did, but I can't find it. Anyway, so I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to make this hole a little bit bigger so I can squeeze this guy in. And just hot glue everything to the base here. But I'll start, I don't want to paint anything more to waste, so, and I can't buy the solar lamps now, so I'm going to improvise, as you can improvise when you're making DIYs. So just glue that in there. Oh no, I got it on my fingers.
So I've cut the hole to fit the solar lamp, and I'm just going to color it in black. And because I'm always in a rush, I seem to never be able to be ahead of the game. I am using my hairdryer to just quickly dry the paint off so I can do another coat, because I did have to do 2 coats because it's from a ribbon roll. The little thing is from a ribbon roll, and it's that glossy cardboard, so it makes it kind of slippery and a little bit harder to paint. You have to do just 2 coats, not harder, just 2 coats. So I did correct where I got my finger marks on the jar. I wound up just spray painting that part, and then then I'm going to go over with some Decor art chalk paint in white, and I just go over the whole jar, including where I've Sharpied his face, and then I just use a baby wipe to wipe it off. And then at the bottom of his hat, just to cover the ring parts, because of course, the mason jar, it wasn't a mason jar, so it shows the ring parts. I'm going to put a little bow, again with some leftover ribbon, just to give it a good nice cover and just to make the hat look fancier. Now, this solar light will glow and it'll make your snowman glow. So if you wanted to have it in the dark, it's a great little piece to have. Unfortunately, it is not dark, so I wasn't able to show you, but I can link the Halloween decor video so you can kind of see what it looks like when it's glowing in the dark. And because this was an old solar light, it was just in a box, so it did not have enough time to charge. So I am, like I said, not able to show you what it looks like in the dark. So here he is, all finished. I hope you like him. I think he turned out pretty cute. And again, a great tray decor or mantle decor or anything, really. He's just cute. Let me know what you think. DIYs. So for the first one, I'm going to be using this Tremclad flat white spray paint. It's just a spray paint I had on hand. And I'm going to be using this Christmas tree and a crate. Don't worry about this square. I will be using this as well, but I'm going to be using the crate for this DIY, as well as some foam blocks from the Dollar Tree and some red spray paint. I will also use some vinyl to cut out for my writing, and then that's all there is to this DIY. Actually, there'll be a little bit of a ribbon as well. So what I've done is I've spray painted the Christmas tree. I've written down the numbers on my little foam blocks using a paint pen, and I've cut out Christmas countdown using a child's font from DaFont. And I wanted it to look like a child had written down Christmas countdown, and I actually did Xmas countdown. I know some people really don't like that being used for Christmas, but for this I thought it would be really cute as a little child's countdown. So I just removed my vinyl, and I always use transfer paper for transferring the vinyl because when you have like a sign or anything like that, it tends to stretch quite a bit. So I apply that, and you have to be really careful because when you have little thin fonts, it wants to raise up. So just when you're pulling it off, just be careful. So this video is a part of the DIY collab that Domestic Diva hosts, and it's a great collab because there's a whole bunch of creators that come together and we create a playlist of different DIYs that we're doing. The theme for this month is Christmas. So if you haven't had a chance to check out this challenge, make sure you check it out. I'll have the playlist linked in my description, and I'll have Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. I'll have her information linked in my description below as well. Make sure you check her out. She is one super talented lady. Once I get my vinyl on there, I wanted to put a little bit of a bow up top, and I thought I could put it kind of halfway down. Then I didn't like that, so I put it a little bit higher, and I still didn't like that. So then I took some ribbon and I just added like a bow to the top that kind of flowed down, and I really liked the way that turned out. And again, I just made a little bow, tying it kind of like you would a shoelace, and just hot glued it on. There was a little crack in the Christmas tree, so I was just adding some glue to fix it up. So after I added all of that, I just touched up some of the cubes because the paint had kind of ripped off when it was drying, and I put it in, and there's my countdown. I think it's really, really cute. What do you think? Dollar Tree, and they're just different sizes, and they're not sticky at the back, they're just little wood cutouts, and I'm spray painting them in that same Tremclad flat white spray paint. And I'm also using a bamboo cutting board, and this is another super easy one. All of these are really quick and easy DIYs. So I'm just going to be, once these snowflakes dry, I'm going to be creating a Christmas tree. So I just kind of try to figure out how I want the sizing to work and the pattern. This is totally personal preference, so kind of play around with it and see what you like. It all depends on what size your snowflakes are and which ones you wind up buying. The only tricky thing with this one is that I noticed that I wanted my board to be darker after I put this on, after I hot glued them on. So I went back and I stained it with the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java. Now, before you hot glue your pieces down, kind of take a look at your board and see if you like it. And if you're gonna write in words, so kind of the reason I wound up staining it darker is I didn't really like the way the words looked that I wrote down. You'll see what I mean a little bit later. So I kind of went back and tried to mute them and make them look kind of like they're faded. They were just a little bit too dark and too rich. So kind of play around with that before you use a Sharpie. I should have done that before, and I knew, as like when I was writing with that Sharpie, I knew that I'm like, oh, I should have just made sure I liked it before I committed to a Sharpie, but live and learn. So that's kind of something that I would have done differently, but I still like the way it turned out. I did wind up using one more thing, the same ribbon that I used in the DIY before, and I covered the Merry Christmas. I didn't like the way I wrote it freehand, so I covered it up with that ribbon, and like I said, I went over top with decorative glaze and everything just to mute everything down. So I wrapped the ribbon over top a few times, and I wanted it to kind of look like it was kind of coming off. So I wanted like different levels to it, so that's what I did. So I just used a little bit of Dollar Tree sandpaper, and I just, like I said, sanded down the words a little bit, and then I applied the decorative glaze first with a paper towel, and then I kind of worked it in, and then I used a brush to get it in between. I did get it a little bit on the snowflakes, so I used a baby wipe to remove it. That's why I said it's easier if you do all of these things before you attach your Christmas tree, like your little snowflakes, but I think it turned out really cute regardless, and here is the finished piece. Let me know what you think. Square plank, and it's from the Dollar Tree, to create my DIY. And I only need one coat of this. And then I'm also using these trucks from the Dollar Tree. They're ornament trucks. I'm not using these Christmas lights. My son just put them in my hand, gave them to me, so I put them on the table, so you might see his little hands grabbing them over here. But I remove the ornament, and I remove all the little hooks off of the ornament. And then I hot glue it to the bottom of the truck, leaving a little bit of space because I will also be using that same ribbon. So basically I used one roll of that ribbon for the entire, like for all three DIYs. So it went a long way. And then I used a little bit of a different kind of ribbon for the bow on this as well. And again, like I said, this is a super easy one, and I had a snowflake left over. You can see it in the corner there from the first DIY, so I put that on here as well. And then I distress it with that Rust-Oleum decorative glaze to give it more of a rustic look. And that's basically all there is to it. I do, like I said, wrap at the bottom some of that ribbon and at the top, and then I do like a little bow just using little strips of ribbon. And then I add a little bell, which is from a bell garland from the Dollar Tree that I had left over actually from last year. So after I get everything glued on, I use a pencil this time. I'm a little bit smarter than I was with the previous DIY, and I write in the words Christmas trees, and I put a little arrow. I'm using a red Sharpie to go over top of the Christmas trees wording, and then I'm using a black Sharpie for the arrow, And that's all there is to this one. Another super easy one. These can be tray decor pieces. These can be little accents in your vignettes. It can be anything. They're just cute little Dollar Tree DIYs that are super fun and super easy to make. And I think they turned out great. Look at this guy. Look how cute he is. Let me know which one is your favorite. If you have not subscribed, make sure you hit the big subscribe button, hit the like button. I also have a coffee page, so if you wanted to buy me a coffee, please go ahead and do that. That's linked in my description below. Check out the playlist, check out Domestic Diva, and we'll see you next week for a Trash to Treasure Christmas DIY episode. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great day and stay safe. I am going to be using some fabric from the Dollar Tree to create my Christmas tree on this wooden plaque that I also got from the Dollar Tree. So before I added the fabric, I actually spray painted it with some heirloom white spray paint, and I'll show you the bottle a little bit later on in the video, in the episode. And it's just a spray paint from Rust-Oleum. It's more like an antique white, so I spray painted it out in that color. And then I just cut little strips from this leftover fabric from last year from the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen it this year now. I have not been going a lot to the Dollar Tree, to be honest with you. I'm trying not to spend so much money at the Dollar Tree because it gets very, very expensive. So I just cut it into strips, and I eyeballed the size of the strips. I try to make them some longer, some shorter, and I wound up just cutting them to size as I was putting the tree together. So it doesn't really matter what size you cut them bigger, and then you can cut them to size however you wind up having them, like how big you want to make them, which ones you want at the bottom. It really is up to you. So you're gonna see kind of what I did, and then you can kind of take it from there when you make your own. And you can use any fabric. You don't have to use Christmas fabric. It's whatever fabric you have left over. If you have like a color scheme that you're going with for your DIY for your Christmas, you could use this in your color scheme. But these are the fabrics I had left over, and I thought they would be really cute on a Christmas tree. So some of the pieces I wound up twisting and then hot gluing in the middle and then putting them down. Other pieces I tied in the middle and then hot glued them down. So again, it just depends whatever look you're going for. It just depended if the piece was a little bit too long, and I was afraid that if I cut it, it wouldn't match up. So then I just made like a little clump, and they all kind of look like they have clumps in the middle. If you wanted to be really precise and have everything kind of be like super lined up, you could also put one of those wood dowels down. Not wood dowels, like, or you could use a dowel, but you could use the skewers from like the barbecue section that they have at the Dollar Tree, and just glue it down the middle, so then you have something like a point, and you could tie the ribbons around it. I've seen that done before, but to me this was easier, and I did not want the wood piece on there, so I liked the way this turned out, and I just alternated the fabrics. I also tried to kind of point the fabrics up a little bit, just so that it would look kind of like a Christmas tree. I always do that with my branches too. I kind of aim them upwards. And then at the end, I just put a snowflake sticker, and then at the bottom I just did a piece of a tumble block that I had, and I hot glued it to the bottom, and I painted everything in a black color. I also dry brushed around the piece, so here's what that looks like. And I just dry brushed the black around because I thought it would just give it more of that rustic feel. And I always like the dry brushing and the antiquing and all of that stuff. I haven't done black in a long time, but I really like the way this turned out. I think it's really, really cute, and it'll look awesome in a tray. I will have a tray decor video next week, not next week, the 16th coming out, so I hope you do check that out. That episode will be over on Vesna TV Home, so make sure you check that out. I'll have it posted in my community as well. And then for the next, I'm ashamed to even call it a DIY. So I like to save Christmas cards that we get, and this is one from last year that I saved. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this frame from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be cutting this old Christmas card to size. So what I do is I take out the little picture that's in the frame and I kind of use it as my guide of where I'm going to cut. And then I cut it to size and I put the little card in there, and that is the DIY. I love this frame. I don't want to stain it or paint it or anything. You could if you wanted to. You could use any old frame that you had, but this is the one that I used, and I've used it for Halloween too, and I just love the way it looks, and it's so easy and anyone can do it. Just save your Christmas cards or buy new ones if there's really nice ones that you like. Sometimes not all of us have printers that we can print images, and maybe we don't want to be, maybe we don't even have a hot glue gun or something like that. So this is something simple that you can do and create really cute decor for Christmas or for any holiday. And you can use that frame for Christmas, for Halloween, for Easter, and just change out the picture. So it could be something really inexpensive that you do. You could even take like from magazines or flyers or something. If there's like a picture of a Christmas tree or something that you like, you could use that too. And that could be even simpler and even cheaper. Let me know what you think of this one. And on to the next one. I have this jar. This is not Dollar Tree, but you can get these jars at the Dollar Tree. I've used these jars so many times. They're from Peaches that we get at Costco. And I'm painting out the jar in that heirloom white. And I'm painting the lid out in a metallic gold paint. And they're both, one is Rust-Oleum, one is Rona brand. Rona is, well, they were bought out by Lowe's now, but they were a Canadian company. So this is their brand of the metallic paint. We still have a few of them around. And then I'm also using this Merry Christmas card from from the Dollar Tree. It was just a set of cards. And I'm going to be Mod Podging it onto the jar itself. Then I'll be using some jute rope and I'll be tying that around the top of the jar, and then I'm going to add some embellishments. And the embellishments are just like one of those little trees from the Dollar Tree, the bottlenose tree. I think bottlenose trees is what they're called. And just two little I always want to call them acorns, and they are not acorns. My gosh, the English word is escaping me. Pine cones. So I start off by cutting out the image kind of to the size that I want it to be. I wanted to keep the Merry Christmas, but it was just too big, and to cut it down so it would fit, I didn't like the way it would look. So I wound up just using the car image, which at the end turned out to be great. So what I do is I cut out the image and then I wet it around with a paper towel, and then I use my hand to just kind of rip off the pieces around it so that way it looks kind of vintagey. So I Mod Podge the image to the jar, and be generous with the Mod Podge. Add lots at the bottom and then lots over top. There was just a little piece that was kind of sticking up, so I wound up hot gluing that down because the way the image is, it's kind of like a puffed up image. So I wound up hot gluing just the little pieces that were sticking out too much and not gluing down. And then I hot glued the jute rope around and added my embellishments. And at the end, I wound up dry brushing some black around. This episode had a lot of black dry brushing, which, like I said, I haven't done in a while, but I really like the way it looks. I did it for some of the Halloween stuff, and now I kind of am going back to doing it again because I like the way it looks. So here's the finished piece, and again, I love it. It's so cute. It'll just look like a nice little tray decor piece. Now I won't use all of these in one tray. That's why I didn't want to really put them, you know, showcase them in a tray. I'll kind of use them in different trays to add to what I already have. I picked up the ceramic truck at the Dollar Tree and I just gave it an uplift. So I painted it, and what I did was I used that heirloom white that I used throughout the project, the spray paint, and I spray painted it all in white. And see how it gives it more of a yellow color rather than that clear white, or that crisp clean white. And then I just went and I dry brushed black all around it, and I added some to the tires, and then just any of the grooves I added black to it. And I did it on both sides, and then I painted the Christmas tree in black and the wreath black, and then I added some red to the bow on the wreath, and that's all there was to it. I actually also used a Sharpie because it has this little Mary banner that goes around the truck. So I used a Sharpie just to kind of outline the triangles, and then I did go with a brush over top in a different kind of green, but I used like a lighter green to go over top of those, and then I used a black Sharpie to go over top of the words where it says Mary. And so here it is, all finished and painted, and I think it turned out really cute, and it'll go great in a tray. I'll have to probably prop it up a little bit so that you can see it, but that's it right there. So let me know what you think of these, which one was your favorite, and make sure you come back next week for another Christmas episode. Christmas DIY episode. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have an excellent day and stay safe, everyone. Little mini miter saw a little while back, and I am absolutely obsessed with it. I love it so much. So I'm using it to cut down tumble blocks. So for the next few DIYs, I'm just going to be using these tumble blocks to make my snowman. So the first one is kind of a vertical snowman where I'm just cutting a few of these blocks to size, to the size that I want. So I'm going to be using the full size ones, and then the little ones that you see there. And I will also be using a few of the little ones kind of the same size for the other DIYs. So I am making my snowman, like I said, vertical. If you've watched my episodes before, you would have seen that I made pumpkins like this. So I'm kind of same idea, but I'm making a snowman. So what I'm doing is just seeing how I want to make this, and I'm using 4 big tumble blocks and then 4 little ones, which are basically 2 big ones if you're thinking of how many you need. A pack of tumble blocks will be more than enough. And here I've seen in Canada, I've seen now the 72 pack of tumble blocks, which is amazing at the Dollar Tree. So again, I'm putting them all together and hot gluing them. And then I'll be painting them in white, just using this Deco Art chalk paint. And then I will be just using a Sharpie to draw on the eyes and the mouth and the carrot nose and the little buttons. I also will paint one of these little pieces of tumble block black, and I will be using that as a top hat for him. I forgot to record myself drawing on the buttons and the arms and all of that stuff, and as well as gluing on the hat. I think I thought I pressed record and I didn't. You know that this happens to me often. So, but anyway, here is what he looks like all finished, and you only needed 1 coat of the white. The white is pretty good. And like I said, just a Sharpie will do. You could definitely use something else if you wanted to, but a Sharpie worked just fine for me. So for the next DIY, I'm also kind of more like a snowman, like a bigger snowman. And I'm just stacking them one on top of the other, gluing them together using my hot glue gun. And you can make this how big or how small you want it. So for mine, I am using a set of 2 for his head tumble blocks, and then 4 for the middle part of his body, and then 6 for the bottom part of his body. So 12 in total. Like I said, it depends on how big or how small you wanted him to be. You make whatever works for you. I did not add arms to him, but you could definitely take a pipe cleaner, or even if you have little sticks from the backyard, you could glue little sticks onto him to make arms. I chose not to for this one. And I am using the white chalk paint again from Deco Art to paint him in white. And I will be using my Sharpie again to draw his eyes and his nose and his mouth and his little buttons. Now for this guy, I also added a red sparkly pipe cleaner as his scarf. I thought it just gave him a little bit of pop of Christmas. And he's so cute. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know for Christmas time, I love making snowmen. I've made several in my DIYs before, so if you have some time and you want to see how I've made them, I will have the playlist for Christmas linked in my description below, so you can check out some of the different snowmen that I have made. So here he is completed. I think he's just so cute. And to him, I also added a tumble block for his hat, and then I drew on with a black Sharpie just kind of the bottom part of the hat. So you actually needed one more extra tumble block. So tiny. I think they'll make a perfect kind of tray decor piece if you raise them up a little bit. So I am actually just using 2 tumble blocks for these, and I've cut them down to size. I kind of just cut two large tumble, like 2 normal size tumble blocks into 3 and just different sizes. So the first one I'm gluing one on top of the other vertically and the other one horizontally, just to give you a sense of what they can look like either way. They are super small. They're like a mini tiny decor. I kind of had an idea if one day I make like a fairy garden, but like a Christmas village or something like that, you could use them in that. Or even for my tray, it could just be something that goes as a part. If I have a little vignette of a city, like a village or something like that in my tray, I could use them for that. And I just thought they were so cute. Just so tiny and cute. So anyway, I've hot glued them. I've painted them using that Deco Art chalk paint. And I drew on with my Sharpies the nose and the eyes and everything. Glued on some hats to them, and that's all there is to it. The hats were again from the tumble blocks. And I cut them out. I believe I used 2 tumble blocks in total for all of these projects for the hats. And here they are all completed. Okay, so to move away from the tumble blocks, I had a pine cone that I wanted to use up. And then I also had these styrofoam balls from the Dollar Tree. You can use pine cones that you find from the dollar store, or you can use pine cones from your garden. I believe these ones I got from the dollar store a while back, or from a different store. They were just, no, from a different store, because they were $1/4 per bag, and I got a whole bunch of them. And I'm using that same Deco Art white chalk paint to just add a little bit of white to the pine cones. I'm not painting them fully. I'm just kind of giving them frosted tips and adding a little bit more just so it kind of looks like it has snow on it. And then again, I'll be using that Sharpie to add eyes and a nose to the snowman. And I will be gluing a hat using the tumble blocks that I painted in black. But I'm going to be doing a bottom part to the hat and a top part, so it kind of looks like a top hat. As you can see, this one that I'm gluing on did not work. I took the wrong tumble block, so I will wind up taking it off and redoing it. So for this one, you can use it just as a decoration piece in your tray or wherever you have a mini display, or you can attach some jute rope to the back, just hot glue it, and you can make it an ornament. So it really depends on how you wanted to do it. I'm going to use it in my tray, so I won't be attaching any jute rope, but that's totally up to you. It could be, you can make some really cute ornaments. But here he is, all completed. He is so cute too. And last but not least, I am doing a garland. I've started to really like to use these in my trays. So I'm using these beads, which I had gotten from the thrift store a while back, and I spray painted them with the blue color from Rust-Oleum and just a white color, and then I had some black that I had spray painted previously. So I'm going to be using them to make my garland. I used 6 of the blue, 6 of the white, and 4 of the black. And then I'm assembling them. This time I chose to use some fishing line for the instead of jute rope, just because last time when I used jute rope it kind of all fell apart. So I wanted to use this time around. You could, if you have some nice better rope, you could use that jute rope, it just kind of falls apart. So I'm just pushing them through, and then I am doing it that I do 1 black, 3 for white for the snowman, 1 black, and then the 6 blue, and then a black, 3 white, and then another black. And then I'll be using the jute rope for the little tassel at the end. So for tying them off at the end, I just kind of went with the fish line, and I pulled it through, and then I made 2 knots, and then I made another knot, and that made it stay. And then I wound up hot gluing the tassel. I left a little piece extra of the fishing line thinking that I could tie it around, but I didn't like the way it was kind of twisting it. So I wound up hot gluing the tassel to the very last bead. So the angle is not the best for the tassel here, but what I did was I got a piece of jute rope and I wrapped it 20 times around my hand. Then I cut off a piece. I cut it off at the bottom, tied the top kind of like a head with a different piece of jute rope, and then hot glued it to the last bead. That's all there was to the tassel. I've seen tassels made all sorts of different ways. This is just the way that I chose to make it. So then on to the white, I just drew the snowman's face and the little nose and the mouth, and that's all there is to it, and it turned out really super cute too. So, well guys, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. I love doing these mega episodes. Hope you enjoyed it. Come back next week for some more fun Christmas themed DIYs and Christmas themed gifts. Those will be my next 2 videos. Thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified when I post new stuff. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Stay safe. So I saved this part to the end in case some of you were still watching. The reason I sound the way I sound is not because I'm lacking energy and lacking positivity. It's because I've had some form of laryngitis for the last month and a half. I can't seem to get my voice back, and I can't seem to be 100%. Not sure why, but it's been a tough year at work, so maybe that's kind of contributing to all of it, but it is what it is. I sound awful, but I don't feel as awful as I sound, and it's not that I'm lacking enthusiasm, because sometimes people mistake that for lack of enthusiasm. No, I just can't speak louder. If I do, it hurts a lot. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and thank you so much, and this is what keeps me making these videos more and more, is you guys watching. Thank you. Have a great day.